Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on Diamond.
Absolutely. There's been a lot that's been going on recently, and I'd like for us to start with one of the most recent events. You were scheduled to appear on Radio Phoenix. Unfortunately, this did not happen, and what has been reported is that your own cadres were at the radio station. What exactly is going on here, if I may start from there, that you're scared of your own party members?
Thank you for that very important question. But before I answer that, let me, on behalf of the Patriotic Front and on behalf of the Tonse Alliance, register our condolences to the family of Mama Guru Wanga Zulu, who passed on and was put to rest yesterday. I'm sure that many Zambians and people in the neighboring countries will miss her. She really gave us joy each time we watched her. And secondly, on a happy note, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're very proud of you.
Thank you.
And on behalf of my party and behalf of the Tonse Alliance, I'd like to congratulate you and also your team at Diamond TV for creating you to go and represent us at BBC.
Thank you so much.
Well done. Well done. We're proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Now, the question you asked, am I scared of my own party cadres? No, far from it. There's no way, there's no reason why I would be scared of any PF members. And I have to state that I wasn't at the scene at the moment when this was happening. I was on my way going to the studio when my advance team, which had gone to make sure that the studio is ready and so on, because they also had to go and set up cameras for us to stream online on our different platforms. They're the ones who alerted me of the presence of these thugs who were at Radio Phoenix. And mind you, the people who went there, my advance team, is composed of senior members of the Patriotic Front who would be expected to know the majority of our party members. And the people they met there, they couldn't recognize not a single person as being from the Patriotic Front. Their suspicion is that these could have been hired thugs from either another political party or non-known thugs from anywhere. Could be thugs from, I don't know, some market or some tavern or something. They were not Patriotic Front members. At least this is the information I got. And the only thing I can say is that this is something that all of us must condemn with the strongest terms possible. Zambia has been a democratic state for a long time, and people must enjoy their freedom of movement and freedom of association. I myself, as you know, and as many viewers know, don't move around with bodyguards. I have never had a bodyguard. The last time I had an ADC was when I was a Minister of Government. Before then and after that, I've never had bodyguards because I've not seen any reason why I should walk around the streets of Lusaka with a bodyguard. And if these trends continue, it will force people to start creating their own forces of defense. And you can imagine what the country will turn into if every politician moves around with a team of militia, with a team of people to protect them. Will create a very dangerous society. And we must abhor this. And I'd like to appeal to all of us politicians. Let us exercise our political rights to express our views, to exchange ideas. Let's use politics to be a field in which there is a battle of ideas and not a battle of physical violence, intimidation, or coercion. That is not the politics that Zambia deserves.
With this incident that happened at Radio Phoenix, these people that you referred to as thugs, did they do anything that was out of the ordinary that made you worry about your safety?
Like I said, I wasn't at the scene, but my advance team, when they got there, they found these people. Initially, they were dressed in their own clothes. And when my team arrived, these fellows were going towards the gate of Radio Phoenix. And my team asked what they were doing there, and they said they were waiting for their boss. And when they asked, which boss are you waiting for? And they mentioned my name, that they were waiting for me. So they asked, where are you from? And one of them produced a teaser and said, you're asking too many questions. While this was happening, the others started wearing brand new PF t-shirts. So that sent an alarm in them. How could these people have come in their own private clothes and they come and start donning PF uniforms at the gate of Radio Phoenix with one of them having a teaser in his hand? Then they realized that these were not necessarily friendly forces. And they were asked, you were waiting for the boss to do what? And they said, we're waiting for further instructions. From who? They didn't divulge. That sent an alarm in my advance team. And that's how they alerted me and asked me not to appear. That's how they went and informed the station manager that there was this skirmish outside.
What has this done since the incident happened to you? What has it done to the things happening around you? Like you said, and I've had an interview with you, I've seen you a couple of times. You normally move alone or with an extra person to assist you, but today you seem to have a few more people. What has this done around you and your safety?
A number of members of the party, when they heard about that, they got alarmed. And they are the ones who asked that a few more people must join me today. It wasn't out of my own volition. This is because of the concern of some of the leaders in the Patriotic Front and leaders of the Tonse Council of Leaders. They're the ones who arranged that a few more people should come with me.
Let us talk about the Tonse Alliance itself. It has been making news, but not for the very best reasons. There seems to be there seems to be a tug of war going on within the Tonse Alliance, almost as if there are two parallels that are running the same organization. What is going on?
I don't think that would be fair to you and to your viewers if I denied that there actually is some kind of tug of war, because that's the reality. And I like to tell the truth, no matter how bitter it is. And the truth is that at the moment, there is a struggle for turf. There is a struggle for leadership. You saw what happened a week ago when there was one Council of Leaders meeting held on a Sunday, or was it Sunday, at Sean Tembo's house. And some of the members of the Council of Leaders met with me, and they decided that they will go to that meeting to go and see if we could harmonize that team with the other team. And the outcome was that the meeting was disrupted because Sean Tembo quickly rushed and called the police because there were some PF youths who went there who escorted our Council of Leaders. That's how that meeting was disrupted. And on a Tuesday, you heard that there were two Council of Leaders meetings. One was held under the chairmanship, I believe, of Member of Parliament, former Member of Parliament from Fue, in the name of Maureen Mavonga. And the other Council of Leaders meeting was held at the PF Secretariat, which was co-chaired by Chief Apostle Professor Dan Pule of the Christian Democratic Party and myself. We co-chaired that. So the truth of the matter is that indeed there is struggle for turf between two groupings. Now, we said at the end of our meeting, our Tuesday meeting, Professor Dan Pule and myself called for harmony. We called for reconciliation. We called for a truce. And we put in place a team headed by President of Green Party, Peter Sinkamba, on which team is also Professor Nason Ngoma of the People's Pact and Sylvia Chalikwasa of the Patriotic Front and Kenishas Banda also of the Patriotic Front. We charged that team with the responsibility of going around to all members of the Tonse Council of Leaders to find out where is the bone of contention and how can we resolve that so that all of us move together. It is our prayer that by the time we meet on Saturday, that committee will have come to the bottom of it and will have found proposals on how to bridge the gap. That is what we're working on. But the truth is, that's apparent difference between the Sean Tembo team and the Tonse Council of Leaders. And I'm not being slightful of anybody when I say the Sean Tembo team and the Council of Leaders. The reason I'm saying that is because the Council of Leaders, as you're aware, has more than 30 members. And when you see Sean Tembo meeting like they did, you only find 2 presidents there. The last meeting they had, there was Sean Tembo himself, president of PEP, and Kelvin Bwaliafu, the president of, what is the party called again? Yes, the 2 presidents were in that meeting. Whereas in the Council of Leaders meeting, which I consider the legitimate Council of Leaders meeting, you had more than 17 presidents representing about 12 political parties and NGOs. You know that the Tonse Council of Leaders has membership also drawn from non-political players, civil society organizations, youth groups, and so on. So the majority were in the meeting that I chaired.
Is it right for me to conclude that you are not aware of why there seems to be this disagreement?
I think I'm aware of why.
Why?
The issue is actually 2 or 3 issues. First is the issue of who is the legitimate chair of the Council of Leaders in the demise of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu.
Do you think this is a genuine concern that should arise at this time?
It shouldn't.
Why?
There's no reason why it should. The Tonse Alliance came about when some members of the then United Kwacha Alliance decided to pull out of that alliance to form Tonse. And that group included people like President Sondo, people like President Wright Musoma, President Peter Chanda, and President Peter Sinkamba, and Sean Tembo, and Secretary General Raphael Nakachinda. They sat down and they said, no, we can't continue in UKA. And initially they had chosen People's Pact to be the alternative. But others felt, no, we shouldn't go People's Pact way. Instead, let's form another entity. And that's how the name Tonse came about. And the big team decided that they're going to ask a few people to come up with the Memorandum of Understanding. And young Aongola, Council Aongola, and Sean Tembo, and Zumane were tasked that responsibility. In the process of them coming up with a Memorandum of Understanding, the Patriotic Front said they would not engage in any kind of political alliance if that political alliance does not take into account their terms of reference. So the Patriotic Front, under the leadership of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, tasked Dr. Canisius Banda and a team, an ad hoc team, which came up with what we're referring to as the rules of engagement. The principal matter in the rules of engagement was that people must recognize and appreciate the fact that of all political parties in Zambia, of all opposition political parties in Zambia, the PF was the largest. And therefore, if we're going into any alliance, the PF must play the role of being the anchor party. We didn't want to go the route of the UPND alliance, where the parties were just attached to the UPND as appendages of the UPND. We chose to be a bit more liberal by saying it will be an alliance, however the PF shall be the anchor party. So that we avoid calling it the PF alliance, we wanted it to be liberal, to be Tonse Alliance, where the PF is the anchor party. Because PF was to be the anchor party, it was also resolved that the chairmanship of the Tonse Alliance would come from the PF. So there's no argument about that. The third was that the PF will provide the presidential candidate for the Tonse Alliance because it is the anchor party. Now, this has become a bone of contention. Why has it become the bone of contention? It is because in the constitution that was being drafted by the people I mentioned, they said there will be a vice chairman. Okay? And yes, Nobody disputes the fact that in the absence of the chairman and in the absence of anyone from the PF providing the chair position, then the vice chairman can sit. But for as long as there's somebody from the Patriotic Front will have to assume the position of chair. It goes without saying, because when Edgar Lungu was alive, because he was from the PF, he was chair. When President Edgar Lungu was taken ill, he went to South Africa, the question arose. I think you remember, your viewers remember, that there was a back and forth argument, and I wasn't involved, if you recall. I remained mute about it until President Edgar Lungu himself took to his Facebook page and spoke to some newspapers here, where he clarified that the acting president of the Patriotic Front would also be acting chairman of the Tonse Alliance. There shouldn't have been any dispute on that. But the others, particularly Zumani Zimba and Sean Tembo, have been open about it. They've been saying, no, this is not tenable, and that instead, the vice chairman, in the name of Apostle Professor Dan Pule, should be the chairman. Now, fast forward, you saw our meeting on the 7th. We co-chaired that meeting, and President Pule of CDP has no issue with it. Okay, it's a settled matter that the PF will provide the chairman, and Dan Pule would continue as vice chairman. So that is an unnecessary debate, and we should have left it behind by now. But Sean Tembo and Zumani seem to insist that we must go to the Congress and elect a chairman and so on and so forth, and that in the interim we must be choosing chairman in every meeting. You can't have such kind of disorder.
In the midst of this kind of disagreement, keeping in mind that there is an election coming up, an election that you intend on participating in as an alliance, is there no compromise to the extent of the argument on the other side of the table?
We called a Council of Leaders meeting on the 7th, and we invited all members of the Tonse Alliance. We were hoping that Sean Tembo particularly would be in that meeting, but he didn't turn up. We are hoping that by Saturday, the Peter Sinkamba team will have exhausted their assignment, so they can come and tell us what is it that we should do to make sure that we harmonize these differences as we go into 2026.
Do you believe, or are you open to the Tonse Alliance going to a general conference?
No. The Tonse Alliance need not go to any conference whatsoever. No. The ones that have to go to a conference very quickly is the Patriotic Front, because it is already agreed that the Patriotic Front is going to provide the presidential candidate who is going to be supported by the Tonse Alliance. So the Tonse Alliance cannot elect a presidential candidate. No. In the event that people want to change the rules, then again, you cannot leave it to the Tonse Council of Leaders, because the Tonse Council of Leaders consists of members drawn from these political parties. And the Constitution of Zambia states that before any general election, all parties participating in the elections must have intra-party elections. Now, Tonse is not a registered party. Tonse cannot be on the ballot paper. No. So it is the constituent members of Tonse who should go to their general conferences. If there was any reason for us to agree that the PF shall not provide a presidential candidate and the presidential candidate shall be determined by the Council of Leaders, then again what you have to do is to make sure that the various constituent members have their own general conferences, they elect their own presidents, and they suggest that these are the people that we're putting in the pool to be considered by the Council of Leaders. It's not the Council of Leaders themselves who can just sit and say, we're electing a president. I saw that they were saying, they were advertising that any ordinary citizen can apply to be elected by the Council of Leaders. No, the Patriotic Front would not agree. I lead a mass organization. Huh? Can you imagine all those members of the Patriotic Front being subjected to supporting a president who is not a member of the PF, who has not been subjected to an election in the PF convention? That's expecting the PF to give in too much. And I think that all other political parties would be in a similar position.
Isn't it then that the PF should just go this election alone?
No, we wouldn't like to. We wouldn't like to. What we'd actually like to do is that before the election, we even bring on board all those other political parties that are outside the alliance. Let us all come together so that we go into this as a united opposition. The idea of PF running alone is the least on our agenda, and we are hoping and working very hard to avoid that. We would like to go into this as a collection of all opposition political parties. We don't want to have a proliferation of candidates on the ballot paper, because that will only work to the advantage of the UPND. We ought to come together, all of us opposition political parties.
How is this a collective when there is no compromise? It's pretty clear that these other political parties would be coming to support the PF and the PF's candidate.
And this is exactly the basis on which the Tonse Alliance was made. That's the basis. And the beauty is that, like I said to you, the majority of the members of Tonse are still in keeping with that foundation, that the PF shall be the anchor party, the PF shall provide the presidential candidate. That is the position. Now, as we go ahead, as we get all other political parties together, if there is need for us to re-look at that, I am amenable. And I can go and speak to Central Committee of the PF to show them that there is reason to shift. And once we agreed, we'll have to come up with new terms of reference. But that must be out of popular demand. It mustn't be a demand of only two people, Sean Tembo and Zumani. No. They are being invited to come. Let them present their views and convince the other members of the Tonse Alliance. Once they do that, we're good to go. But they cannot make demands, just the two of them, against the wish of more than 30. No, that is not fair.
What is this doing to the Patriotic Front itself? Because apart from Mr. Sean Tembo, Dr. Zumani, the other members of the Patriotic Front who have also been a part of these meetings on this other side. I mean, the last meeting that you talked about was chaired by a member of the Patriotic Front. That meeting at Mr. Sean Tembo's house had members of the Patriotic Front in attendance as well. Isn't this ripping the PF apart even further than we have seen over the last few years?
And I really pray to God that that is not the agenda of Zumani Zimba. I hope he's not doing that with that intention in mind. But unfortunately, that's exactly the outcome. Zumani Zimba and Sean Tembo, ever since March, have been saying that President Edgar Lungu appointed members of the Patriotic Front to sit on the Council of Leaders of Tonse, and that those letters are being hidden by Raphael Nakachinda, and that Raphael Nakachinda, together with Given Lubinda, do not want other members of the Patriotic Front to sit on the Council of Leaders of the Tonse Alliance. Naturally, what that has done is to put a wedge between those members and myself on one hand, and Raphael Nakachinda, and them on the other hand. And that is very dangerous. And unfortunately, and I have to be very candid, what ceased to be a very popular party after the loss of elections in 2021 has become extremely popular now. Even people who didn't want to be associated with the Patriotic Front now are coming on board, which is very good, and I'm very happy about that. But because of that, and because people are seeing that the PF is going to form government in 2026, when a person is told that you have been appointed to a particular position in Tonse or in the Central Committee of the PF, what do they see in them? They see themselves landing a position in government. Now, if they are told the one who is standing between you and your position in government is Raphael Nakachinda, naturally they become upset. they create anger in them and hate for Raphael Nakachinda, and in this case also for myself. When that meeting was held at Sean Tembo's house, I think it was on a Monday, I can't remember, on a Monday, they claimed that they found themselves there because they had heard that I would attend the meeting. And I forgive them for that, because if they heard that I was going to attend and they justify that, their attendance by that, that's fine. But the following meeting, the Central Committee pronounced itself very clearly that no member of the Patriotic Front was allowed to attend any Tonse meeting which was called by any other than Raphael Nakachinda. And we saw them. That was gross indiscipline. I have no other words for it. That was gross indiscipline. It was gross indiscipline for all those who went to attend a meeting after the Central Committee communicated publicly. The Central Committee had made a resolution, and all faithful members should have abided by that resolution.
When we talk about the Patriotic Front's participation in next year's election, there's been previously announced, previously been announced that there is a plan to hold a general conference for the Patriotic Front by the end of this year. But there is also something standing in between that, and that is the ongoing court case and the fact that former President Edgar Lungu is yet to be put to rest. It's only 2 months before 2025 ends. Do you see the Patriotic Front going to a general conference?
Let me give a little background to both matters that you've mentioned, the court issue and the burial. And I'll start with the lighter one. In the last ruling of the court, where we were expecting the court to agree with us because the litigants in that matter, being lawyers of the Patriotic Front represented by the 9 MPs and Mao Sampa on the other, agreed in court. Both parties agreed that the origin of this problem was in itself a nullity. Mao Sampa and his lawyers agreed that that meeting of his of the 23rd of October 2023, 24th of October 2023 was a nullity ab initio. And the lawyers of the PF also said this is the position. They were agreed. We were hoping that because they were agreed, the court would say there is no matter here. Okay? To our surprise, the court decided that there is a third party who is interested in this matter in the name of Chavinga. He was not party to the proceedings, but was brought in by the court. And the court said they want to take the whole matter to trial. So, are we going to wait for that trial? If we do, we'll be living in Alice in Wonderland.
But you don't have a choice vis-a-vis the Patriotic Front than to wait, do you?
You know, we know for a fact that even if that matter was to go to trial next week, it will not be concluded in a week's time. All right? It will drag and drag and drag. I am just prayerful. I'm prayerful. But sometimes, you know, you pray and God doesn't answer your prayer because there are some people also have to be shown the way by God. And some people are put in their positions because God wants them to come and answer questions. So, the short of it is that while I'm praying, I'm also alive to the fact that I should not allow naivety to overshadow us. We're therefore planning that whatever the outcome, come end of November, the PF shall hold their convention. Whatever the outcome in court, the PF shall hold their convention. That is the resolve of the Central Committee. That is my resolve. Second matter, the unfortunate and, for lack of better word, sadistic extension of the funeral of Edgar Chagwa Lungu. I call it sadistic because I can't imagine that any human being would relish the idea of keeping a family in mourning for such a long time. I can't believe it. But that as it may be, we don't know when the burial will take place. And should we as a party be held ransom by that? We lost time already from June up to September. We were in mourning. We did not take a lot of political activism because of the mourning period. But to whose benefit? It has been to our disadvantage, but it has been to somebody's advantage. Our disadvantage has been the advantage of the ruling party, because for them they are mobilizing. For them they have already started, they've launched their campaign for 2026. And yet for us, we've been kept in mourning. This is the reason why in September, when I was in Petauke burying the mother of the Member of Parliament there, I mentioned to our officials in Petauke that yes, we shall continue to mourn our dear departed President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, but we will not have our feet fixed to the ground. We will not have our hands tied. We ought to start working. We ought to do what President Edgar Lungu wanted us to do. President Edgar Chagwa Lungu died in pursuit of the second liberation of Zambia. You remember what he said on the 28th of October 2023 when he announced that he was coming back to politics. He said he couldn't sit back to watch the shrinkage of the democratic space in Zambia. And he called upon all of us to rally together so that in 2026 we redeem Zambia from the tyranny of the UPND. And for us to sit back because his body hasn't been interred will be a letdown for him. We'll be letting down his legacy. We'll be letting down his vision. Instead, I'm sure that wherever his spirit is, it's saying, fight on, so that those brothers and sisters of mine who are incarcerated for political reasons must be given their liberty. That those people in Zambia who are not allowed to express themselves must be given the freedom of expression. That is what was his desire. I'm sure that his spirit is lingering, waiting for us to take that action. And because of that, even before we bury our dear departed brother, we have to have the convention.
There are reports that a Zambian businessman based in South Africa, Mr. Wheeler Joseph Modolo, is being positioned to take over the Patriotic Front. Is this true?
I don't know. I don't know Modolo. And I know that there are many people who are positioning themselves to take over as president of the Patriotic Front. And whoever qualifies is free. Whoever qualifies to lead the Patriotic Front, let them follow the Constitution and let them follow the instructions that will come from the Central Committee. If they qualify, they're welcome. Nobody can stop anyone. We're a democratic party which wants to enhance the democracy of the country. We cannot say we're going to enhance Zambia's democracy if we ourselves, in our internal processes, we are undemocratic. Then it will be hypocrisy. So if Modolo qualifies, he's welcome.
I'm curious. Are you interested in being the candidate for the Patriotic Front in next year's election?
I was asked soon after President Edgar Chagwa Lungu passed, and I said, in 2022, when we opened the doors for people to register their interest, I didn't. And it was in respect of my elder brother, because he and I discussed this matter. And now he's not here. He hasn't been interred. And I said the last time I was asked that in respect of the honor I have for him, I don't want to even call myself president. The Constitution of the Patriotic Front, Article 54, is very instructive. And I'm giving you this just to illustrate how I feel about it. Article 54 of the party constitution says, in the event of the demise of the incumbent president, the vice president assumes the position of president. Which literally means that after the demise of President Edgar Lungu, the one who was his vice president, yours truly, should have been called president. But I don't carry myself as such. I don't. I'm very happy to continue as vice president for as long as my elder brother has not been interred. And the time will come when the PF Central Committee decides that now we are opening up for those who want to apply At that point is when you can ask me this question.
So it is a
For now-
possibility, though.
For now, I'll keep this away from the public domain until such a time that it is right. Because if I start saying yes or no, I'll be encouraging others to also say what they want to say. And that would be totally irresponsible for me.
But the convention will happen nonetheless, even if the former president is interred in due course or not.
Whether he's interred or not, the Central Committee of the PF decided before the end of November, we must have the convention. And it is also my prayer, as is the prayer of many members of the party and many members of the Zambian society, and also the diaspora, that the powers that be release the body of Edgar Chagwa Lungu for it to be interred, to stop this mourning by the family.
Let me take you a little bit back, and I'd like a bit of clarity, because you described the attendance of some of your members into the Sean Tembo briefing as gross misconduct, is what you described it. Are you taking disciplinary action as a political party against Brian Munduwile, Mumbi Piri, and the others that attended?
I don't think that it would be fair for us to start naming names except the one who chaired the meeting. And I say this because we run the risk of putting names in the basket of people who may not have attended that meeting. The name that I mentioned it because the report that was in the press mentioned her, Maureen Mabonga, chaired. The others who attended, I don't have the full details, so I wouldn't like to bring in any particular name. And in answering your question directly, it is not up to me. I am acting president of the Patriotic Front, and I don't initiate disciplinary action.
But you speak on behalf of the party.
I speak on behalf, and
so the party has not discussed this.
And I've said, for me, that is gross indiscipline. But we have processes in the party, and the Central Committee is meeting on Saturday.
Let's talk about the voter registration exercise, which commenced on the 13th of October, a very key part of anyone that wants to participate in the 2026 general election. You have already expressed some concerns with regards to this. Why is that?
The first concern I have is that the whole process is coming rather late in the day. It could have been done much earlier. Secondly, there should have been stakeholder consultations right at the start. Stakeholders were not consulted on this matter. The ECZ just came up and said, we're having it on such days. The stakeholders should have participated in the process because, as you're well aware, the regulations of the ECZ provide that all decisions made by the ECZ which are to do with elections must be as a result of broad consultation. The third is that they said all those who want to register as observers must start registering the day before the voter registration exercise commenced. Now, what does that mean? It means that in many places, they started registering voters before observers were registered. So who is monitoring this? An exercise such as this must be done in a very transparent manner. And now it is not being done transparently. The fourth is the training. Where did they recruit these registrars? I was listening today to a radio program which featured Kasaro, where a number of callers complained about the ill training that some of these registrars underwent. And Kasaro said, yes, we had a tight schedule, we wanted to train them just before launching the program. You don't do things like that. You don't take chances. What you ordinarily would do is train people, and after you've trained them, you even do a mock registration process to see that people really understand what is happening. What about sensitization? Who is sensitizing the people out there? The sensitization is not good enough. Huh? I would have expected that by now there would be banners and posters everywhere. I don't see them. I don't hear them on radio. I don't hear on television. Huh? It's being done as though this is a by-the-way business. It's not a by-the-way. This is giving people the right to vote. You know of the case of dubious NRCs that were produced in the northern part of the country. I was one of those who spoke about this matter, and I said, can you make sure that those registrars who were sent to the northern province with defective typewriters, where they ended up using pen to write registration card numbers and names on registration cards, must be brought to the book and go back there and re-register everybody? That hasn't happened. Now they are going around registering voters without the backup of registering for NRCs. You can see that this is shambolic. But I would like to seize this opportunity through Diamond TV to do what ECZ is supposed to be doing, to campaign, and I'm going to launch a campaign myself. And I call upon all members of the Patriotic Front and all members of our alliance partners. Let it be our duty to go out and sensitize every Zambian who qualifies to register to go and register. Let them make sure their voter's card is clean. Let them make sure their NRC is clean so that they empower themselves to vote in 2026, because that's the only way that they can determine the future of this country.
And you believe that there is enough time for all of this to happen, you to rally all these people, to get them to register despite these concerns that you have shared?
We are hoping that our people can respond. If all of us are involved in campaigning, and if indeed the ECZ don't come up with the same arguments that the registrar of NRCs came up with, where they were saying, no, the machines are defective, we've run out of printing paper, and all such excuses. If they don't do that, and we rally everybody, then we should be able to make it. And I pray to God that all of us get involved.
Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of this.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, and it's always a pleasure to be on your set. And remember that where you're going, you're not going as an individual, you're carrying the name of your dear country.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.